Now to a stunning reversal. Convicted killer Bryan Kohberger says he wants to withdraw his guilty plea in the 2022 murder of 4 University of Idaho students.
Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes.
He confessed. He stood in a courtroom and admitted, on the record, to murdering 4 University of Idaho students. He was sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences without parole. The case was closed, or so we thought. Because just this week, Bryan Kohberger, from inside a maximum security prison, filed new paperwork asking a judge to let him take it all back. He's now claiming he's innocent. He's claiming his own lawyers lied to him, and he's asking the courts to reopen a case that a family, a university, and a country thought was finally over. Is this a legal Hail Mary with almost no chance of working, or is there something to it? Let's get into it. Before we break down this new filing, quick refresher for anyone just tuning in. In November 2022, 4 University of Idaho students, Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, were found stabbed to death in an off-campus house in Moscow, Idaho. 2 roommates in the house were physically unharmed. Investigators eventually zeroed in on Bryan Kohberger, a criminology PhD student at nearby Washington State University. Surveillance footage had captured a white Hyundai Elantra circling the area around the time of the murders, and that car was traced back to him. DNA evidence recovered from a knife sheath left at the scene was described by authorities as a statistical match to Kohberger. Cell phone records also reportedly placed him near the victim's house multiple times in the weeks before the killings. He was arrested at his parents' home in Pennsylvania on December 30th, 2022, and charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder. For more than 2 years, this case looked like it was heading to a full trial. Cameras, witnesses, all of it. Then, in July 2025, Kohberger pleaded guilty. As part of that deal, prosecutors took the death penalty off the table. In exchange, he admitted guilt to all 4 murders and was sentenced to 4 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. If you're new here, subscribe now, because we're about to break down exactly why a plea like that is almost never allowed to be undone, and why Kohberger is trying anyway. So here's what actually happened this week. According to court filings first reported by NBC News, Kohberger submitted a handwritten petition for post-conviction relief to the Ada County District Court on Monday. This is a specific legal mechanism, separate from a normal appeal, that allows someone to challenge a conviction after the fact, usually on the grounds that something went seriously wrong in how the case was handled. Notably, Kohberger is representing himself in this filing, according to the court docket. In the petition, he argues that he received what's legally called ineffective assistance of counsel, meaning his own defense attorneys, in his view, failed him. Specifically, he claims his legal team never disclosed or reviewed evidence that he says could have pointed to his innocence. He also alleges his attorneys promised him certain privileges, like immediate contact visits and freedom of movement, and gave him what he describes as exaggerated or false descriptions of what a life sentence or death row would actually look like. He's also making a claim that goes further than a technical legal argument. In a statement provided to the New York Times, Kohberger said his plea was the product of what he called false promises and disinformation, and insisted it needed to be withdrawn. This is a notable shift. Pleading guilty isn't just checking a box. Before Judge Hippler accepted his plea back in 2025, Kohberger had to fill out and sign a 9-page questionnaire, one designed specifically to confirm he understood the rights he was giving up, that no one was coercing him, and that he was doing this of his own free will. According to CNN, that document explicitly asked him whether he understood he might not be able to withdraw his plea later. He signed it anyway. That signed record is exactly why legal experts are treating this new petition with a lot of skepticism. We'll get to that in a minute. Let's talk about how rare this actually is. Criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor David Gelman told News Nation's Morning in America that successfully overturning a guilty plea after sentencing is extremely uncommon. In his own words, he said he's never personally seen it happen, calling it very difficult, nearly impossible. Under Idaho law, a court can set aside a conviction and allow a guilty plea to be withdrawn only to, quote, correct a manifest injustice. That's a high bar. It generally requires showing something like a fundamentally coerced plea, a serious constitutional violation, or newly discovered evidence that genuinely could have changed the outcome, not just a change of heart or a new legal strategy. Samuel Newton, an associate professor of law at the University of Idaho College of Law, pointed out another obstacle to CNN. As part of his plea deal, Kohberger waived his right to an appeal. That waiver typically blocks exactly this kind of after-the-fact review of the plea itself. And then there's the paper trail. That signed 9-page questionnaire wasn't just a formality. It exists specifically to prevent claims like the ones Kohberger is now making. Every guilty plea hearing is designed to build a detailed record showing the defendant understood what they were doing, wasn't threatened, and admitted to the crime voluntarily and on the record. Legal analysts have noted that this kind of documentation is precisely what makes challenges like this so hard to win after sentencing has already happened. So on paper, Kohberger is fighting an uphill legal battle on multiple fronts at once: the waiver, the signed plea colloquy, and the high bar for manifest injustice. But procedurally difficult doesn't mean the filing goes away quietly. It still has to be addressed by the court, and it still reopens a case that a lot of people believed was permanently settled. This part matters, because for the families of Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, this isn't an abstract legal exercise. It's their daughter, their son, their sibling, back in the headlines. The Goncalves family responded directly to the filing, pointing out that Kohberger admitted his guilt as part of his plea and made the choice not to let a jury decide the case. Their statement frames his new claims as a direct contradiction of what he agreed to under oath just 1 year ago. It's also worth noting the timing here isn't happening in a vacuum. This filing comes just as a new Netflix documentary about the case, titled The Idaho Murders, College Nightmare, is premiering, something that's put the case back in the news cycle regardless of the legal filing. So what actually happens from here? The petition now sits with the Ada County District Court. A judge will have to review Kohberger's claims and decide whether they meet that manifest injustice threshold just to move forward, before any hearing on the actual merits even happens. Prosecutors will almost certainly file a response opposing the petition, and given the signed plea questionnaire and the appeal waiver, most legal analysts expect this to be a steep climb for Kohberger. If the petition is denied outright, Kohberger could try to appeal that specific denial, a separate process from relitigating the murders themselves. If, in the very unlikely event the court found real merit to his ineffective counsel claims, the case could theoretically be reopened. But experts have been clear that historically, this almost never results in a plea actually being thrown out, once a conviction and sentencing are already final. For now, nothing has changed about his sentence. He remains convicted, sentenced to 4 consecutive life terms without parole. This filing hasn't altered that. It's a request to be heard, not a ruling. Here's the bottom line. Bryan Kohberger pleaded guilty, was sentenced to life in prison 4 times over, and signed off on giving up his right to appeal. Now he's asking a court to believe that plea itself was built on lies from his own defense team. Legal experts say the odds are heavily against him, but the filing is real. It's now in front of a judge, and it guarantees this case isn't finished making headlines. We'll be following this story as it develops. If there's a ruling on this petition, we'll bring you the update the moment it happens. If this breakdown helped you understand what's actually going on here, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next update on this case. Drop your take in the comments. Do you think this filing has any real chance, or is this just a long shot from a prison cell? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.